So today I figured I'd do something a little different. I decided to do a video. I'm going to explain some of the tools that I have for sewing and some of the accessories, because when you start sewing, immediately you think, oh my gosh, I need all the things. So I'm going to make sure you understand you don't need all the things and talk about the things that I use, why I use them. So here we go. So first things first, storage. You need to have somewhere to put all your things. Now, this crazy avocado box I've got here is actually where I keep all my threads. You can tell I've got a lot of thread. A lot of it was inherited. Most of these are ones that I bought because I like Gutermann thread a lot. And these are all my bobbins. So you can tell I've done a lot of garments in a lot of different colors. But this box was something I got from my grandmother, so you won't find this fantastic 70s avocado green these days probably, but there are places that sell boxes similar to this. I like it because it's got a handle, so it's easy to carry, and it also snaps shut real nice, so very nice. I also have this kind of little box here for various accoutrements. Right now it's got several extra things that I'm probably not going to talk about, but I have a couple of these kinds of boxes for various odds and ends. And then I have my travel sewing kit, which is a cute little Skeletonimals box. I like it a lot better than the kit things it tends to come with, and I'll talk about travel kits soon. But another very important thing is where I keep most of my fabric, which is this 3-drawer thing, which is not particularly well lit right now, but there's that. Anyway, I'm going to talk about some of the important tools. Important thing to have on hand is extra needles. These are all for hand sewing, but extra needles are a must. And then straight pins. I've got this big box of them. Straight pins are kind of something you need a lot whenever you get into sewing, either to pin together different pieces of your garment, or, you know, pin patterns to the garment or whatnot, but you use straight pins a lot. A good pair of scissors. These are super sharp. You need super sharp to deal with fabric, because fabric does weird things. Now, these are not necessary, but this is something I like to have on hand. So little spring-loaded scissors. These are really good for clipping threads from the machine, because they're nice small size. I keep them next to my sewing machine and just using a clip a thread after I'm done sewing a seam, whatnot. But I particularly like that spring-loaded. These, again, are also old, like the box, so you probably won't find a pair that are exactly like these anymore, but I assume that they're probably little spring-loaded scissors that they still make, because it's such a great design, in my opinion. Then you've got a gauge. Now, this is basically just a ruler with a doohickey that tells you where you are on the ruler. I use this to help measure my seams, because you need to know what your seam allowance is. So that's basically just the extra bit of fabric, but I will explain that in a later video. I also have a standard ruler. This is probably more likely what you'll get. A nice small one is really good, you know, kind of a nice half-footer like this. Serve 'em, steak 'em, yeah. But it works really well for measuring seams. Okay, this is my little awesome stacky container full of various bits, hook and eye closures. I don't actually know what these hook things in this compartment are called, but you use them on pants a lot, and snaps. Now, you may not end up ever needing to use any of these, depending upon if you do craft sewing or actual garment sewing, but it's good to have these kind of things on hand if you get into garment sewing a lot, particularly if you do skirts and pants. So, there's that. Alright. I'm going to talk a little bit about my sewing travel kit. This I take to cons with me because you never know when a costume is just going to fail on you. This is some washable Elmer's glue. Well, no wrinkle kind. I like the washable kind because if you put it on fabric, just as a quick fix, you can wash it out later. I mean, there'll still be a mark, but there won't be this glunky glue blah going on there, and it's got like 2 caps. But this is really good if you go to cons a lot and you admit that you might have a costume that falls apart. But I love this stuff. This is my pin cushion. You know, I don't think everybody needs a pin cushion. They're cute, and they're kind of useful, particularly if you're kind of dangerous like me with sharp things, but not necessary. I mean, see, look, I'm about to stab myself. So, that's my pin cushion. Safety pins. Always necessary. Like, always. You never know when you're going to need one. And, you know, maybe you get bored and you decide to give yourself some amateur piercings. Little white buttons. Also very useful. These come in a lot of smaller sewing kits. As you can tell by the fact that these kind of all match, they were all from the same kit originally. Assorted needles. Again, it's always good to have too many needles than too few, because you never know, one might break on you or get dull or whatever. It's good to have. This is important even outside of a travel kit, but a tape measure. The kind of nice flexible kind. Measurements are basically what make sewing go around. You need to know the measurements of who's going to wear the garment. You need to know the measurements of the garment itself. You know, it's all a numbers game. Probably why, you know, despite the fact I'm actually an engineering person, I like sewing a lot. It's a lot of math. It's good math, though. It's friendly math. Anyway. Little travel scissors. These do not cut fabric, but they cut thread. And that's kind of important. If you need something to actually cut fabric, get real scissors, because these are dull, you know, for the most part. But they work pretty fine. And let's see what else I got in here. Is my seam ripper in here? Ah, yes. Little seam ripper. This is important in the... I'm going to pull out my super heavy-duty seam ripper in a minute, but this comes with a little cap and all that. Your seam ripper is basically your greatest tool in sewing. It allows you to make mistakes and easily correct them. So make sure you have one. And have an extra one even. In fact, have several. Seam rippers are important. Various threads from who knows what. I probably actually need to clean this out a little. Embroidery thread is very good for on-site fixes because it's thicker. It doesn't go through a machine because it's thicker. Well, I guess some machines, but definitely doesn't go through standard machines. You can use it to repair something very quickly. And since it's sort of like doubled up thread, it'll be a little stronger. But it's only for quick fixes. I wouldn't use it as like, why is that in there? Anyway, oh, I have sequins. Always have on hand different embellishments from some of your costumes. I have sequins because I make a mono cosplays sometimes. So, yeah, sequins happen. And no idea what this is. It came with the kit. See, it's got little metal things. I'll figure it out one of these days, what it is. And a thimble. Most people recognize this. They're actually not too bad to have on hand if you do a lot of hand sewing, because you will poke yourself. It happens. Anyway, let's go find my seam ripper. Aha! Most important tool, my heavy-duty seam ripper. It's got a nice thick handle, and you can use it for various things, but seam ripper is important.